and welcome to Check 1 2, where we give you the lowdown on testicular cancer by talking to survivors, advocates and supporters of testicular cancer awareness here at the world famous podcast studio Glasgow. In this episode of Check 1 2, we're talking to Jehad Hatu, who is the owner of the Grunting Growler, which is a craft beer shop in Glasgow. Jehad's story is quite incredible, having gone through stage 3 cancer, but also, there is a massive ray of hope. The fact that he met his now wife while going through treatment, and she was going through treatment. So tune in and hear Jehad Hatu. Did you watch any of that show that was on Amazon? That it was the the beer brewing thing. Yeah.
So it was great to watch. It was just one of those ones we needed like bad TV, and that was like hit the spot after work. But James Blunt's actually way more entertaining than I ever anticipated him being.
That's what I found, right?
Kind of a weirdo in a roundabout way, but it works for his personality, and like I really kind of gravitated towards it. And then Jehad as well, absolute genius in like understanding like the kind of technical side of brewing and whatnot. We're actually really fortunate. It was last summer, I think it was. We actually had Jehad up at our shop, and she did a tasting as part of her brewery, Wildcard in London.
Yeah, wow.
So I was a little bit kind of like starstruck and a little bit of a fanboy when she came in. It's like, oh my God, I know you. I've seen you on TV, right? But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. It was pretty cool. Cool.
And what a cool person to have up in at the shop as well. Like, she's just so synonymous with like good beer, and you know what I mean? So to have her be at your gaff's pretty cool. Like,
exactly. And like, it's one thing like understanding beer and drinking beer, but like the palate that she has to understand, like taste something and know if something's went right or wrong within it, or like they've done X, Y, and Z to get to that point, was just amazing to actually see. And again, just a really nice person as well, like super genuine. What you see on TV is actually what you got in person as well, which was awesome.
Yeah, because I didn't realize that there was so much like to the tasting process, and watching that show, and they're going, and you'd see maybe the cutaway of the guys going, oh, we've did this might not be right, and she's like that. Did this happen during your fermentation process? And they're like, yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like even like during the mashing in process, like that's like the part where you're pouring like the water on the malt. You're basically just making like a big bowl of porridge is how I always describe it. Right. But like temperature is so important, and something like a half a degree up or down will completely change the flavor of the beer. It'll either be too dry or it'll be too sweet, just based on how you mash in with temperature wise. So it's like subtle kind of variances completely change the end game.
Yeah. So cool, man. So thanks very much for coming on Check 1 2.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
It's great to kind of again reach out and get different stories about this, about testicular cancer. And I've said to kind of every guest, like for me, I learned something new about it, and it helps me do my job better as well. It's like when I'm out giving talks or stuff like that. So would you really just kind of hit us up with a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, of course. My name's Jehad Hatu. I'm originally born, raised in Chicago, but I have been living in Glasgow for 12 years. My mother, she's Scottish as well, or as I say, my mum, she's Scottish. So yeah, I guess my journey kind of started when I actually first moved to Glasgow. I'd originally moved out here to go back to university. Got way too expensive for me being in America and paying for university out there. So having dual citizenship, decided to move back, try to get free funding. Turns out that didn't work out for me, simply for that I wasn't like a Scottish resident. You have to be a resident for 3 consecutive years. So I just kind of started working, and I was working at a local restaurant in Glasgow called the Butcher Shop Bar and Grill. I don't know if you've ever been to it before. And about 9 months into like starting working there, I started feeling really, really, really quite bad, mainly due to like back pain. And it was one of these ones initially I'm just like, all right, you've been working 60 hours a week, literally just been on your feet too long. Couple ibuprofen, start you right out. In the beginning, ibuprofen totally did the trick and all the rest of it. And then it started getting a little bit more painful. Went to the GP, and they're like, yeah, you've just been working on your feet all day. Here's some prescription strength ibuprofen. Take these, you'll be okay. Try to get some rest. If you get some time off work, that'd be great. And then I just kept going back to the doctors because nothing was actually taking away the pain. It was only just getting like astronomically worse, right? And it finally got to the point where like I'd actually lost 2 stone in about like 4 weeks time. And I could even like walk more than 5 minutes without having to sit down just because my back was in agony. And it actually got to the point, like the only thing that really kind of helped take away the pain was a hot water bottle. But I used so many hot water bottles that my back was actually turning purple in color. Like it was actually starting to discolor from like the heat. It was a little bit crazy. So I finally told my doctors, I was like, listen, I'm not leaving until you actually like get me blood work done, all the rest of it. So he's like, right, don't worry about it. They booked in the blood works, and I remember at this point I had called off work, which is unlike me. I've never done that a day in my life at that point. And I was like, listen, I can't come in. I'm waiting for some blood results to come back in agony. Can't actually stay on my feet. I'll let you know once I hear about it. And I still remember to this day, like it was a Sunday, and I actually had the GP appointment on the Monday, and I was just on the couch with a hot water bottle, and it was just a bit of a scratch. And I realized something didn't feel right. Right. And at that point, I was like, right, I'll just wait until I go see my GP tomorrow. As soon as I went there, I told them about it. They did an examination. They took the blood results, and then they were like, right, we're going to have to get you sent in for a scan. And that was pretty much it. After the scan, they kind of like diagnosed everything. And turned out it was like stage 3 testicular cancer. So by that point, it moved for like my liver, lungs, lymph nodes, and intestines. And that was pretty much it. And then just had to go straight to the Beatson, which sounds weird, but it's the most amazing place in the world. And just kind of all the help they were able to offer me during like that kind of about a year and a half, almost 2 years worth of treatment. It was just unbelievable. Yeah. So,
I mean, I didn't realize that it spread like so much within you as well. So obviously like coming for the States as well, like having like the healthcare system obviously being completely different, you know, and me and my wife talk about that quite often. It's like, you know, you come across guys like yourself who maybe were that little bit longer, but you know, the healthcare system in the States is weird because of obviously it's insurance and it's paying for it. But, you know, you maybe could have had your diagnosis quicker if you're paying for it.
Well, no, it wouldn't actually been that.
Oh, really?
Simple for the fact that I didn't have insurance.
Okay.
So it would either been like, I probably would have never gotten a diagnosis because I wouldn't really know where to go to just because I couldn't afford to actually go to like doctors before then. And even if I did get a diagnosis, it would have been like, I think that you'd be able to get something paid for you, but you'd probably end up being bankrupt, you know? I had to file for bankruptcy at one point just because, I mean, I remember like speaking to a doctor and I think my treatment that I got overall through the NHS is somewhere in the region of like 500,000 pounds or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's NHS money. Do you know what I'm saying? If that was American money, they put a higher tax on that, right? There's a luxury tax they like to put within the private healthcare system. So but yeah, it was absolute godsend that I actually had moved out here and have the ability to actually go through the NHS, and you can't doubt them for one bit. One of the most amazing services that you could ever come across. It is sad that it's probably not as funded as it needs to be right now, and we'd like to maybe see a little bit more of that. But again, my experience that I had was second to none.
Yeah, and the guys at the Beatson, you know, like completely
so
awesome. Yeah,
it's everyone. So it's like going from like the oncologist to the nurses to the porter staff to just like anyone that brings around your dinner. There's not like a bad soul in there, and everyone's so upbeat and so helpful. And when you're having a down day, they can kind of tell that, and they come in, they try to cheer you up. Honestly, it's the most amazing hospital in Scotland, hands down.
Especially when you've got that. Was the bit upstairs built when you went? You know, the wee kind of family area.
The Teenage Cancer Trust. So I was kind of a weird one. So like, even though I was still within Teenage Cancer Trust, I was kind of like on that cusp where I was just like almost out of it.
Yeah.
So I think at that point, like the Teenage Cancer Trust was a little bit kind of over capacity. So they kind of bounced me back and forth between the two units. I still had access to it at any point that I wanted to, but sometimes they put me in the adult ward. But any opportunity that I got to go up there was great because like, you get like little PlayStations in your room and all the rest of it, or like actually in the ward part where like the hangout area, the pool tables, computers, everything you need. It's great.
Well, I was gutted because I was 30, so I had completely missed that. So I was like, I still play FIFA. Can I not go up there? You know?
Did I get to go up there?
No, I never got to go up. I was just completely in the adult ward the full time. You know, I got to go and see it when I was in, because I got lost one time going up to like do you know like the very top story where you could go for a coffee, and there was like beanbags and all that type thing.
Yeah.
But I never I had to sit in a 4-bedded ward with, for old guys.
Yeah. Apologies. I didn't actually realize you're a testicular cancer as well. Or Oh my God, I didn't actually know that. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Jeff White or
Jeff?
I love that guy. I honestly just want to give him a big hug every single time I see him.
Yeah.
He's retired now, right?
Yeah.
I feel like he's going to come back though. I don't know what it is. I feel like it's the type of guy that can't stop working.
He's just amazing, and I think it's like he has that. Me and Todd spoke about it. He's got that way of just kind of cutting through all the bullshit and just going, "This is it." Like there's no, and it's not cruelty. It's just like, no, this is just what we have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay.
Exactly. 100%. So, I love that guy. Like, so I literally have my life to owe him and his team and his staff and all the rest of it. It's unbelievable. So, sad to see him go, but I think it was his time. He works so hard, and you can see that he takes everything on board. He really cares. Truthfully, you can see that it eats him up inside if something's maybe not going right, or if he had a plan for you and maybe had to deviate from that and go on to something else. So yeah definitely.
Because during my treatment, I had like 3 kind of weird kind of things happen, like a physical and then illness stuff within the illness, And I remember there was one time I had to phone to cancel this appointment, and I ended up getting to speak to Jeff. He's like, I'm sorry this has happened to you. And I'm like, it's not your fault.
I know, right? He honestly, he truly cares. So, yeah.
So how was treatment for you then? Like going through, 18 months, nearly 2 years. Is it 18 months?
Yeah, thereabouts, to be honest with you. There were some breaks in there. So I guess for my treatment, originally it was just supposed to be one intensive chemotherapy regimen, all the kind of usual stuff like your platinum and your bleomycin and all the rest of it. And then it was supposed to be a surgery for the orchiectomy, and that was pretty much it for the most part. But then by the end of my first treatment, I didn't quite get down to the normal levels, quote unquote, for our tumor markers. And that was fine because they kind of thought that it would be right, not everyone is normal. This could be your normal, so we're not going to worry about it too much. But unfortunately, within a couple weeks after that, my tumor markers started to kind of skyrocket back up the way. So from there, they put me onto a secondary intensive chemotherapy regimen. And I remember Jeff coming in and be like, listen, you kind of breezed through the first bout of chemotherapy. I wasn't expecting that. This one's going to be significantly harder, but we need to do it for you. You're going to be a lot more tired, lethargic, probably in pain, all the rest of it. I'm like, don't worry about it. Bring it at me. And I remember the next week he came in after the weekend with me taking my chemotherapy, and he kind of sat there and he looked at me. And he grabbed my notes and he started looking through my notes. He's like, we gave you chemotherapy this weekend, right? I was like, yeah. I was like, why? And he's like, you look too fresh. I was like, just keep bringing it to me. Don't worry about it. I'm here to just keep going through. Because I'd relapsed during that time, it wasn't just a second bout of chemotherapy they were going to give me. They also did a tandem stem cell transplant, just to zap it as much as possible. And I told him, I was like, listen, I know you guys are saying this one's going to be hard, but this doesn't affect me. I'm just going to go through it. That one kicked me in the ass. Excuse my language, but that one really kind of floored me for the most part. Just the sickness was a lot worse. And just being isolated within your room for 4 weeks before they kind of, do you know much about the stem cell transplant?
No, I was going to ask.
So basically it's still chemotherapy, but they basically wiped out all your immune system. It's as much as your body can physically handle. So it completely eradicates your immune system. Your immune system would build back by itself, but it would take a significant long time. So they give you your blood cells back or your stem cells back, and it helps kind of build your immune system a little bit quicker. So you have to be isolated within a room that has this own filtration system for air and all the rest of it, just so it's not coming from other parts of the hospital. So yeah, that's kind of 4 weeks in isolation, just in a room by yourself, only one visitor at a time and all the rest of it. So yeah, we had to do that, and we ended up doing it twice. I asked Jeff White about that. I was like, am I supposed to do it twice? And he's like, there's no evidence to prove that it's better or worse. However, we just want to be sure. So just to be on the safe side, we're going to do it twice for you. So yeah, we did that, got through there in the end, and then the last part of the kind of treatment was the bilateral lymph node dissection. Right. Basically why I had so much back pain before I got diagnosed was because the cancer had spread to my lymph nodes. So the first place that it would potentially spread back to would be the lymph nodes. So they just could go in, they removed that. It was supposed to be like I think it was supposed to be about a 7-hour surgery. Ended up being about 10-hour surgery. And then that was pretty much it. That was the end of it. Go back every year to say hello.
Mm-hmm.
I was told last time that I'm there, I've only got 2 more visits, and then that's me. And they'll be telling me to move on and never come back and see them again. So knock on wood, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Totally.
Yeah, but that must feel good as well, you know, like that kind of like last 2 visits as well, you know. It's
to be honest with you, I thought I'd be going seeing them the rest of my life, and I was quite happy with that because it just kind of gives you a little bit of reinsurance, right? And when they told me, like, I didn't really know how to react to it. I don't know if I was like scared or if I was happy, if I was sad, and it was just like a buildup of emotions. But yeah, definitely is nice.
Yeah, because I had just missed when I got my treatment, I had just missed that like 10-year holding like thing. So the new studies had suggested that you could just do it for 5. So so I've already had my kind of last visits,
see you later.
and catch you later. And I've been really grateful though that like being in the job that I'm in now with Cahonas is that I've got to meet Jeff like back a few times, and we're doing these gift boxes. So that's what the kind of this is for as well. So Richie kind of came up with this box. It's just stowed full of stuff. So guys like ourselves that were going through radio or chemo, they get like a gift box, and it's got like like toasties in it. It's got like books, like pens. It's got Chili's bottles. It's got wash bags. It's got all
that's
this
amazing.
stuff. You know,
everything you need. It's just like a grab bag type thing. Just go straight to the hospital, right?
So it's like, honestly, man, it's like this big, and so we approached Jeff to kind of see about bringing these in. And I think like most things, it's like charities are going to bring in stuff and you're going to go, oh, I don't know. But I think because of the quality and the amount, like to the point where everybody that we've met at the Beatsons went, that's quite a lot. It's like, well, yeah, but this is what these guys need. So,
exactly.
So so it's been good to be able to get that, and that's going to go national as well. So we've spoke to the other hospitals.
Oh,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah, so it's just about pushing that out there, man. And like guys like Ballbags who do the underwear, they're given a code so you can get a free pair of pants. The guys Football Manager, they're given a free game.
Are they really?
Yeah. So you can go in and just get that free game downloaded. So because I mean, the reason I reached out was it was the only thing my concentration could handle was playing Football Manager. Okay. You know, during like my treatment, I couldn't concentrate on anything. So I was like, Football Manager, I'll do 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. But
yeah, it does a trick. I'm really actually bad for it now. And I'm not a big reader, but I managed to read a few books when I was in hospital, and that really kind of helped take my mind off it. The one thing that I found surprisingly actually really fun, and it's not a thing that I do. I haven't done it since hospital, but you know, like the model airplanes that you build up, and it comes like in plastic, and you have to like break it all apart and put them all together.
Yeah.
That was actually really, really fun to do. And like it comes with like a set of glue, and you have to sit there and put glue on it and force them in together. And I actually think that like part of the reason why my neuropathy from my fingers went away, because it was actually really quite bad. And actually just kind of maybe working with them really kind of helped maybe get the kind of sensation back to them and so forth. So yeah, definitely.
That kind of fine motor skills, maybe just like read networking of the brain.
100%. 100%. It was really fun. Yeah. To be honest with you, I don't even know what's happened to them. They must be somewhere in my house somewhere. I must have them in a box somewhere. Yeah, definitely.
You have to look them out and get them pride of place.
100%. 100% then.
So being 24, was it 24 you were when you first started?
Yeah, it must have been, around 24 I think it was, definitely.
How was that then, like being, again, young man, you know, finding that kind of news out? How did you cope with that? Were you quite kind of...
You know what? It was such a relief being diagnosed. This sounds so weird, but I was in so much pain previous to it, and just being told randomly different things from like each GP or like out of hour service that I went to, that I was like, we know what's wrong now. We could at least try to fix it, right? Because before we were just patching it up, putting a Band-Aid on it. So that was actually okay. And then previous to that, when I was living in America, all my family moved back to Scotland. So being able to have my full support network of family here from, you know, my mom, my sister, my aunts, uncles, cousins, all of them coming up and visiting me was great. And I guess we just kind of like, you know, try to take something bad and flip it around and try to see the positives in any kind of format that we can. The other positive was like actually having the NHS to back up on when we didn't have insurance and all the rest of it. Having the opportunity to do any type of like public speaking for awareness for cancer, raising money for charities. I even met my now wife in hospital, which was really cool. So she actually had cancer as well. So many kind of good things came out of something that could have been a bit of a tragedy. So
yeah. And it's funny, like all the conversations that like I'm having and like guys in that chair, I don't know if it's just a kind of a mindset of each individual, but it seems to be that something good's came out of something bad, and the fact that, you and your wife met going through treatment at the same time. Like, how did you actually meet? Like, were you just like passing each other in the corridor, or
Teenage Cancer Trust?
Was it?
Yeah. So there was so part of like the being like the Teenage Cancer Trust ward, you also had like a CNS, clinical nurse specialist. I had Julie. Fucking love Julie. She's so amazing. Do you know her? Oh my God, the biggest sweetheart ever. And she was part of the reason why my treatment was probably so easy to go through as well. So she's like, listen, there's this like event on tonight. It's like a meetup group. And I'm like, Julie, I don't think I'm really interested. I'm like pretty old. Like I'm like just got in here by the kind of, I should technically be in the adult ward. Yeah. And she's like, right, you should go. And I was like, all right, I ended up going. So I was actually in like one of the wards that was like not on the Teenage Cancer Trust, but it actually had like an elevator that went straight up there. Mm-hmm. So I like walked up with my kind of chemo bag, like on the wheels and whatnot. No hair, no eyelashes, no eyebrows, and that was Nicole was there, and we just kind of, I don't know, there was something I liked about her, and we ended up like linking up on Facebook, and I remember I asked her out on like a date so many times, and I just kind of kept getting knocked back, and I was like, I'm pretty sure she's interested, but like I can't get anywhere with this, right? And I remember like finally, she always had an excuse why she couldn't go on a date. I think she was just really nervous. And I remember I just asked her, I was like, all right, what's your favorite food? And she came back Italian. So like barely knew Glasgow at that time. I'd only been in Glasgow for like less than a year. Googled like Italian restaurants. First thing that popped up was James Italian, no longer there anymore, right? Yeah. So I was like, text her back. I was like, all right, James Italian, it's already booked 7:00 this night. You can't back out now. And then the rest was kind of history, and that was pretty much it, man.
Yeah, that's what a cool thing, though.
Yeah,
like if you believe in like fate, serendipity, and all that type of thing, man.
Totally.
You know what I mean? She's probably looking like, this guy's looking like Uncle Fester right now. I need to wait until stuff grows back.
Exactly. No beard, nothing. So, but yeah, that's 10 years together now, and we just got married last year. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So.
Yeah, and obviously, like, and kind of like doing the research for this, like, it was quite a big thing as well. You guys were kind of featured in news articles and all that type of thing. How was that, like, having that kind of spotlight, on your relationship like that?
Yeah, I guess at the time it was like pretty fun being young. You're like a little bit naive to it. Looking back on it, I don't know if I would do it again, to be honest with you. I like this stuff here because it's like really personable and it's like on like a small level. But I think sometimes you gave like a story to one person, you don't realize how journalists work, and they actually have like sister companies, and they kind of sell that story on from like place to place. So it kind of went into like articles that we didn't actually realize they were going to go into. Mm-hmm. So I think we're kind of naive on it. But at the time, it was really fun. Maybe looking back on it being an adult, I'm just kind of cranky now. I'm like, I'm not sure if I would do it again, right? But yeah, it was good. It was good nonetheless.
So you've got your own beer shop, cocktail bar as well. Is that right?
Yeah, the cocktail bar is just open. Right. Again, another great thing is when I was going through treatment, I kind of made that decision that I wasn't interested in going back to university. I wasn't interested in going back and work for anybody, and I wanted to take an opportunity to actually just work on myself and create my own opportunities. And I decided to set up a business while I was in hospital. So my very first business plan that I wrote for the beer shop that we now have, Grunting Growler, was quite literally written from a hospital bedside table. Right. And that was pretty much it. As soon as I'd finished treatment, we'd linked up with Princess Trust, Business Gateway, and a few others, and we actually just kind of started to develop Grunting Growler. Went out, did a few different pop-ups, and then eventually gained some traction, got a little bit of money behind us, and set up our now shop that we've had for 8 years actually in in April, it'll be 8 years. So, and then idiotically, we opened up another business, and we opened that up a week before we got married last year. Quite literally the week before we got married, we launched it. So fun times.
So was it always something you wanted to do, or was going through treatment something that kind of went, was that, like, again, everybody has these wee epiphany moments, like when something big happens, was that what happened with that?
It was. I was still quite lost in life at that age. I'd like done quite well, like in high school, I had pretty good grades, my studies were well, but then I just kind of hit this hurdle when I got to like university in America and realized that it was so expensive and I didn't have the means to actually do it. And then again, like the whole idea that like I tried applying for 9-to-5s that I thought were professional jobs that I wanted to do at that time, but nobody would give me an opportunity because I didn't have the degree behind me. Yeah. So like when I was there, I was like, I actually have nothing to lose. Like, nobody's like investing in me. Nobody's giving me an opportunity. So like, let's take a chance on yourself. Why not? Like, what's the worst that could happen, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right. It was a bit of an epiphany when I was in hospital. I'm like, go for it. Screw it.
Quite right. And the name, like, where does the name come from? Is there a kind of a reason? Because it's a great name. Like, it's a brilliant name.
I guess a little bit of play on words. So, but it also ties into what we actually started off when we first set up. So we do growlers of beer, which is a growler is just a reusable jug used take-home draft beer. If you go into like in a Webster American Dictionary, you could go to the G's, look up growler, and it's right there, and it says like, what is it? It literally just says a vessel for transporting beer next to it, right? So yeah, it was a way that I actually drank beer when I was at university in Indiana. We had a local microbrewery there called Upland, and on Sundays, it was really weird in Indiana, you couldn't buy beer to take away. Right. But you go to a restaurant, you could have like beer at a restaurant, and our local microbrewery had a restaurant attached to it. So the loophole in the system was we can go there, fill up the draft beer because it was on draft rather than packaged, and I could take that home with me and drink at home, and we could watch American football on a Sunday and all the rest of it. So we just kind of got into it by like default out of like necessity of wanting to have a beer on a Sunday with the NFL. And then when I came out here, I was like, why can't I get a growler of beer? And then that's basically what we set up. We set up a growler shop. The business model has really kind of grown legs since then. We still do growlers, but it's not like our main business model. We also do crowlers now as well, which is like a can that we fill up and then seal for you to take away.
Oh, cool.
And 300 different beers rotating plus a sit-in aspect. But maybe to go back to what you're asking, so Grunting Growler really kind of came along from just a play on words. Also knowing that growler can mean something a little bit different in the UK. So it's just trying to like offer something fun to kind of fit into the kind of Glasgow humor and personality.
I mean, it's a great name, and your logos are immense as well. Like,
thanks.
No, honestly, like when you look at stuff, there's always this like, why something's successful, because like you look at the kind of love and the passion that's in it. You can see it, which is great. You know what I mean? And then the fact that you've been able to kind of, so is it Lunar?
Lunar,
yeah. Is that like a joint kind of business with, or is it just something?
Just something that my wife and I decided to do.
Right.
It was one of these ones we weren't actively trying to set up a business, but an opportunity kind of presented itself to us, and we couldn't pass up on it, even though it wasn't the right timing with like getting ready to get married, just bought a flat, all the rest of it. But opportunity presented itself. We took a shot at it, and that's pretty much it. We were kind of looking at like what to do. We actually took on the unit before we actually knew what we wanted to put into the unit.
Right, okay.
And we kind of looked at the area. We realized that like there's no cocktail bars. We live in that area, and there's nowhere like necessarily enjoyable for like super high-end cocktails in like a really kind of relaxed environment. So we're like, that's exactly what it's going to be. And haven't looked back ever since. Just kind of set it up and been on that journey, which has been really fun and exciting to see. And we managed to get ourselves an amazing team behind us at the cocktail bar, and that's pretty much it. I
think it's testament to you as well, the fact that you are doing like what you're doing, plus having been through COVID as independent business owners. That must have been something to kind of live under.
Yeah, COVID was pretty intense. It hit us all like a ton of bricks. We didn't really know what to do, and I'm not gonna lie, like I was beyond stress, like on the lead up to it, like news on nonstop. yeah, just trying to figure out what was going to happen. And like, I literally, started creating like, a financial forecast of like, all right, if we close down today and we have to be closed down for a certain amount of time, what's our runway? How long do I actually have before we actually like run out of money that we can't pay for like our rent and all the rest of it? And I kind of put 3 months on that timeline actually. So at that point, I think I actually started, and then like they came out with like the grants and all the rest of it. And it actually kind of started to relax me a little bit. Right. And I was like, all right, the grants are there. It's going to be okay. Close down for a little bit. Take this opportunity to like reset, relax instead of like working 60 hours a week and all the rest of it. And then next thing you know, they're like, off license, your essentials, open up. And I was like, oh no. So we opened up and we were actually beyond busy, like to the point that like it was really challenging to actually handle it. We went from being like a bricks and mortar beer shop and bar to then being like 100% e-commerce, and having to make that transition quite literally overnight was a little bit of a challenge in itself, even though we already had e-commerce before then, but we just weren't used to that type of volume coming through. But then we just managed to kind of flip it. We did click and collect, we did local deliveries, and local deliveries was actually probably my favorite part of lockdown. We'd go into the store, we'd pick all the orders, we'd then be open for like maybe 2-3 hours for collection. And then I'd load up my van and I'd go do deliveries for like 3-4 hours. Right. And actually just like getting the radio on, windows down, because it was starting to kind of creep into like spring, summertime at that point. And then just drive around Glasgow and doing deliveries. And then the cool thing about it was that I actually got to see my customers, albeit from a distance, but like being able to actually have like a quick 5-minute conversation with somebody, and you could tell they really appreciated that because they hadn't seen anybody all day. It was actually pretty cool to be able to do that. So. Yeah,
and because you would have had your regulars and things like that before, like COVID happened and things like that. Eh? So to be able to see them and then obviously new customers, must have kind of lifted as well.
Yeah, so many new customers, and again, you could really tell like when people's face actually lit up when they actually had a delivery. It was something like really exciting. And yeah, you just get to know people from like a different kind of point of view when lockdown happened. But that being said, even though it was a little bit hectic in the beginning, and then we kind of got a handle of it and we kind of enjoyed it at points in time, so happy that's behind us now. Happy that's behind us now. And it actually just feels like we're only just coming out of it, even though it's been for a while. It's taken a long time for people to kind of get back into like their normal way of like going out, spending habits, drinking habits, eating habits, all the rest of it. And it just kind of feels like we're now kind of getting back into some type of normalcy. And I know it was such a long time ago, but like the effects have just kind of trickled down over time. So
yeah, you can feel that even within people themselves, that like it's really had a huge impact. And yeah, I quite believe that, especially for independent businesses, that's that you'll just be coming out with that. So like was beer something that you were passionate about, or was it just something that kind of came to you as I like that?
So to be honest with you, like a couple different things. I couldn't say that I was like necessarily truly passionate about beer or even had like the level of understanding and knowledge about it before I actually set up the business. But it was definitely something I dabbled in. One of my best friends, Matt, he was the guy that actually got me into beer, and he was the one that like introduced me to my first quote unquote craft. And it was, again, Upland, that brewery that I was talking about from Indiana previously. Yeah. So they had this beer called Upland Wheat, which is just kind of like this classic, I'd call it like a Belgian style wheat ale. Almost kind of like a, how would I describe it? Like Blue Moon kind of style, if anyone knows about that. But like done like on a kind of craft small version, a lot more flavor, and so forth. And I was like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. It's better than like these Bud Lights we're playing like beer pong with every night, And then he's trying to like introduce me to like IPAs. And to be honest with you, I kind of hated IPAs at the time. They were like, that scene, you ever watch Elf, like during Christmas, and like Buddy the Elf is going through the mall, and then he takes a sample of the perfume and he sprays it in his mouth? That's kind of how I felt like every time I tried an IPA back in the day. I was like, it was just like way too perfumey for me, like pretty intense. And then again, the whole necessity of like having to get beer through growlers from our local microbrewery because they couldn't sell beer on a Sunday, right? And that kind of slowly transitioned me into like actually liking it. So very much like a like light hobbyist when it came to beer. And then as I kind of fully immersed myself into the industry, it's now my passion. It's now like what I know most about. Even though we have a cocktail bar, my understanding and education and knowledge definitely sits in with beer.
Yeah.
And now I'm like just only like a hobbyist when it comes to cocktails. I know I like drinking them. I know I understand the flavor, but like our staff are like the ones that actually know that kind of inside knowledge inside and out.
Oh, right. It's because, I mean, the microbrewery explosion that happened in that kind of mid-2000s as well. Like, see when that happened, like, that was it. There was craft beers just galore, and like I've got family who stay in Philadelphia, so we were over there, and there's one of the kind of craft places they took us to that had like, I think it was like 52 different independent microbreweries were giving them these beers, man. And you're like,
that's
wow.
America. They just like do everything a little bit over the top, though. To be honest with you, I think that's way too many beers to have on draft. Way too many kind of like options. But hey, it's America in a nutshell, isn't it?
You call it that'll do.
Totally.
But no, that's awesome though. It's like it's always nice to hear, like, because obviously we've had Todd on, we've spoke about his coffee business and things like that. So it's always nice hearing, like, you know, different stories of different businesses as well, because like I grew up working in the NHS and then going to Cahonas, so I've not had a varied career. You know, I've done some pub work and stuff like that. So yeah, it's always good in that way. So in terms of like your kind of testicular cancer journey as well, you know, you spoke about you know, your kind of surgeries and things like that. Has there been anything that you've kind of felt has been the kind of lasting effects of your?
God. Yeah, but it's just there's so many things, but I guess it's a small tax that you have to pay to kind of come out on the other end. So like a few different things. I talked about like having neuropathy in my fingers. That went away. It's in my feet all day, 24/7. My from like, you know, the tips of my toes all the way to like the backs of my heel, completely numb, tingling all day. But you just kind of get on with that. Like, that's not a big deal. You kind of learn to forget about it and so forth. I'm really fortunate in the sense that it doesn't cause me any like adverse side effects in terms of like being off balance, or some people can actually like sleep from it.
Yeah.
I'm okay in that sense. My surgery, I have like a hernia off the back of it because like the wound didn't heal up completely. So I got like a small hernia on my stomach. Again, it doesn't cause me any pain. It's just like this little bubble that's poking out of my stomach when I'm at the beach, which, let's face it, I live in Scotland. There's not many opportunities to go to a beach. So not that big of a deal. The one that I probably drive my wife crazy with, though, is tinnitus. My ears ring nonstop all day. And while it doesn't affect me in terms of like some people can't go to sleep from it and so forth. Some people get thrown off balance and whatnot as well from it. I just can't hear shit. Excuse my language. I just can't. I'm so bad. If there's any type of background noise, I'm always saying like, what? Or can you repeat that? Or I'm quite literally like guessing what people are saying. I did have like a really amazing friend who works within hearing loss, and he helped me get some hearing aids, but as much they're like much better than the NHS ones that were originally provided for me, you could still see them. And like being at that point in time, like 26, 27, I'm like, this just makes me feel really old. So I kind of decided not to wear it. But I think the kind of older I'm getting, the worse my tinnitus is getting. And I think I'm going to have to go down that line and probably get it sooner or later. I think there's new ones that kind of sit inside your ear canal now. So I might opt to go down that route down the line. Hair never grew back, but I think that was just being my mom's a McEwen, Scottish. I think it was just come from the Scottish side of the family. I think that was inevitable. That had maybe nothing to do with chemotherapy.
Yeah, it was just genetics.
Just genetics. That's pretty much it, man. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'm the same. Tinnitus, man.
Oh, man.
Is awful. And the longer that it's went on, I mean, I had kind of tinnitus anyway from like years of just going to gigs, and like bursting my eardrums with music. But after chemo, like it was wild, man.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Have you been tested for it? Like, have you figured out like what your tinnitus is? It sounds really weird, but like I remember like sitting in the doctor's office, or like, so can you tell me what your tinnitus sounds like? And I'm like, you for real? But basically, like they test you and see which like pitches you can and can't hear, and then off the back of that, they could tell you like what letters you most likely struggle to hear.
Oh, really?
And then I'm like T's and S's for the most part. And like it's very high pitched tinnitus, so I actually mainly struggle to hear mainly kind of female voices that are a little bit higher pitched in context, you know. So yeah, definitely get that checked out. Like see what they say to it.
It's something I kind of keep meaning to do, but there's, you know, that way you're kind of like, I'll do it another day, you know. And it's ridiculous, but it is that type of thing, you know. See if I've got 2 kids as well, so like, you know, 13 and 5, and
okay.
Come 5 o'clock in our house, it's beautiful chaos. Like I wouldn't change any of it, but it's like the telly's going, the wee one's running about, the dog's yipping. Pamela's trying to talk to me, and she said, like, I've seen that like the last few months, she's like, I'm saying stuff to you and you're just going, yep, because I can't hear a dang thing. Do you know what I mean?
And it's that whole thing when there's all the background noises, it becomes really challenging to actually hear it. You're absolutely right. And then it becomes kind of like sensory overload because you're trying so hard to actually hear what they're saying, but you actually get frustrated because you can't actually hear them. So yeah, and especially now working within like, you know, the bars at nighttime, and we have a little bit of, don't get me wrong, we're not blasting our music, we're not a nightclub, but there is music happening, and like you're trying to take somebody's order and you're just like repeating it to them just to make sure that you've gotten it correctly, or like you're watching them where they point on the menu, just kind of confirm what you've heard and all the rest of it. So yeah, it's definitely gonna be something that I have to look into, but you're right, it does become overwhelming, doesn't it?
And it's that way when it's like, you know, see certain volumes, like if like my wife tries to say anything to me, I'm like, I've got to read it and go like, what? Because I can't. And I'd make the world's worst deaf person because I cannot lip read worth anything, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, no,
I've not got it.
Not got it.
Have you started listening to or watching like Netflix with subtitles?
Not yet, but it's there's times where I know that I'm not hearing everything, that because there's sometimes I'm going, when there's Pamela caught that, and I'll ask her. And this is the first time I've actually spoke about this out loud as well, by the way. And I'll ask her, I'll go, like, oh, did they say that? Like thinking that she didn't hear it. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I'm like, damn it, I really can't hear then. So
no, I've opted for subtitles a long time ago. Right. It just makes it a little bit easier to watch and follow. But it is kind of weird because like you find yourself reading quicker than they're actually saying things. So you're actually like laughing maybe a couple seconds before your wife starts laughing and whatnot. So yeah, interesting to view it that way. So
and it's such a weird thing. Like I use an app as well. Like that it's just a series of clicks and white noise and like high pitched squeals, and like the kids will look at me like I'm crazy, but it actually, like, I'll fall asleep to it, or like my boy plays rugby, so I'll drive him to rugby, and he likes like heavy metal with me, so I'm like, I see if I whack on like Slipknot or Megadeth or something like that, or even like Pantera's great. I could fall asleep listening to it because it, for whatever reason, it hits a pitch in my head where it's almost like a relief. Do you know, like when if you're sore and the pain goes away, you feel tired. That's kind of like what my tinnitus is like. If I can get that right pitch, I'll just be like, oh, that's
wow.
Me. Yeah. So
you don't want to be doing that while you're driving.
No. But yeah, man, heavy metal does it for me.
Right, interesting. I might have to take that up. I listen a little bit of everything, but I've never tried the heavy metal aspect for relieving my tinnitus, so it's going to be right on the Spotify playlist from here on out.
Honestly, Metal Essentials, just anything cool. It will have a difference, and it is a thing that, again, like during these conversations, like not being able to, like guys not really. Sorry, what am I trying to say? Is that guys talking about this? You know, it's like when, you know, I was going through my chemo. I never met an testicular cancer patient at all because of the ward I was in and things like that. Yeah. So I never got that opportunity to kind of bounce off anybody. And I don't think a lot of us do. You know, I think it's a very much a lonely personal thing. But to be able to have these conversations afterwards, and the hope is that anybody watching will go, those guys talked about tinnitus, that's what's going on with me. And, you know, it's such a huge part of why, you know, me and Richie wanted to kind of do the podcast as well.
Makes sense.
You know, and it's great having like stories to be able to kind of tell like that. So you're kind of, where are you now? How many years now? You 8, 9, 9?
I think it's about like, it's kind of weird because I don't think it must be like 9, I think, actually. Right. Yeah, 9 sounds about right. I've been in Glasgow 12 years, 12 and a half years, I suppose. Yeah, let's say about 9. Yeah. About 9 years, yeah.
Yeah, so 9 years and you're kind of still feeling good still, you know?
Yeah, like I said, man, I was quite literally like skin and bone when I got diagnosed. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think like before, I was probably like 160 pounds when I like first moved over to Glasgow. And I dropped down to like below 130 pounds. I was quite little like skin and bones.
Because what height are you? You're like over 6, aren't you?
I'm about 6 foot, yeah. So like, you know, going from like 130 now like back up to like 220, I feel good for myself now, you know? Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, I was in a bad state when I first got diagnosed. It kind of started getting the best of me, you know? So it was actually the point where like we got funds from ClickSarge and everything because I had to buy like a complete new wardrobe because nothing actually fit me anymore. Mm-hmm. Like everything was just literally falling off me. I was like trying to put on jeans. I'm like putting it to like the belt to like the last notch and like I'm still like falling off me and all the rest of it. So, and then I started getting a little bit better. And then when I went through my tandem stem cell transplant, lost all the weight again and then had to put it all back on. But yeah, it was just, again, part of the process, part of the journey, right?
Yeah, no, of course. And see the funding that you got, you know, just in case anybody hasn't kind of heard of it, you be able to explain a little bit about that?
To be honest with you, I don't know if it's still available, but there was this funding that like it helped you to kind of get ahead. So like, I think it was like you could get anything like help you get your driving exams. I remember I actually got funding for that. It helped me get like new wardrobes. You could like apply for it to get like new bedding. If you were like in pain, you need a new bed to like take home. Julie was great at that. She was that sign post for me to just say like, here, go to this person or I've got this person on board. There was also a Macmillan's benefit officer that was there that helped me out with everything. So she kind of like applied for all my benefits, you know, posted in for like ClickSarge and all the rest. So again, I kind of talked about this earlier, but I think my journey was so easy because there were so many resources for us to tap into. Again, I talked about it. Julie, my clinical nurse specialist, there was a ClickSarge person there that kind of helped out. The Macmillan benefits officer and everybody else just made it seamless for us and made our journey just focus on the cancer rather than everything else behind us that needs to be done as well.
Yeah, so. And I think that's the good benefit of having all these great systems. And I think it's like, you know, again, guys maybe going through it who maybe are from different areas and, you know, aren't quite as connected into the hospitals as maybe they could be, you know, hearing, you know, that information at least, you know, they can go to somebody and then, you know, ask, because we've been asked a couple of times, you know, like, do you deal with people's benefits or can you signpost? And it's like, and as Cahonas, it's not something that we do or really know about. But then when to have the kind of resources that out there for people, the help's there. I think that's the good thing.
Of course, they must still be there. I remember there was a specific office as soon as you go into the Beatson, just past where you get the bloods taken. There used to be an office there dedicated towards the Macmillan's benefit officer, and she was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I don't know if she's still there, but at the time really did the trick for us, you know?
Yeah. And going forward for you, and like, you know, obviously you've got the beer shop, you've got the kind of cocktail bars. Is there anything kind of else major in the works for you, or are you just kind of focusing on those two things just now?
Nah, just focusing on those two things. Again, if any opportunity ever came to us, we'd definitely jump at it. But right now, we're just kind of focused on, you know, making sure that we're doing the best for our businesses at the moment. My wife has been really busy, actually. She actually just got recently qualified for personal training. So I think it's probably best that I take a step back and give her the opportunity to like really work on her own businesses right now and get that up and running. And it's been really fun to see her journey. She's only gotten recently qualified back in like November, but it's been fun to see.
Yeah, so. No, that's awesome. And then like obviously, you know, like you kind of... I've seen that you kind of host events and stuff like that at the shop. Is that something that you kind of do in terms of like other brewers coming in and things like that?
Yeah, we like to keep things like really fun. So sometimes brewers come in, they'll do like a guided tasting. sometimes we actually have like spirit brands. That's been like one of our kind of go-to recently. So we have a spirit brand come in, and while spirits aren't our thing, we pair the spirits with beer. So like a traditional Scottish Hof and Hof. But like rather than doing it with whiskey, we've done it with like mezcal, we've done it with gin, bourbons, rums, and cognacs and everything else.
Right.
Well, so yeah, we always do different events. We just like to keep things fun. There's one in the pipeline that we're trying to get off the ground. We really want to do like a beer and curry night while we try to figure out what beer goes best with a curry to end the age-old debate. Finally put an end to it. This is what's the best one to go with. So
no, that's awesome. And then to have that type of kind of interactive stuff within the shop must be great as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just changes the whole dynamic of it as well, eh?
Yeah, like it's just an opportunity to like actually interact with your customers, and that's what it's all about. You know, we're in the hospitality industry. We have to be hospitable. It literally says it within the name. And if we're not doing that, then there's no point of us even showing up on that day. So yeah, and it's also trying to keep things like fun. So like when we do these types of tastings, there are like baseline lessons in terms of how to do pairings, how to match flavors and so forth. But like, we don't want to be wanky about it.
Yeah.
We want to do it in a fun manner that you can then actually take those lessons, apply to like different things. If we're going out to a nice meal or fine dining or just doing it in your house as well, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think it's such a useful thing to do, to like go out and go, that tastes great with that.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's like, because, I mean, food and drink, it's everybody's bag, you know. It's like, if you're going to go out, you're as well doing it where, that's perfectly matched with that. And if you like, say, if you're not being wanky about it, it's just like, no, that just makes that taste better.
Exactly.
Why wouldn't you do it,
right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to just order your bog standard tenants or your lager and all the rest of it. I've got nothing against tenants though, but it's okay for every once in a while. So.
I still like, I can't kind of drink tenants that much, because like even I kind of worked in pubs, you know, and you're doing the drip trays at the end of the night, you know, and it's like there was just this stale beer thing, and I like, because you know, being in Scotland, tenants was everywhere, and that was always the, you know, but it's like you say, it's like I'll still, you know, bang a, but luckily they've got the kind of dry gate stuff that changes it. But how do you select your brewers then? Like if you work with, like, was it 300 plus you said?
Yeah, everything rotates, so we try to, you know, a lot of things about like going out, trial and error, quite literally like market research by having a pint of something that you've never had before. And if you think they're good enough and they kind of have the quality there that kind of matches what you want to sell to your customers, we'll then kind of take a stab on them and then start stocking them for the shop. Sometimes you hear really good reviews about certain breweries, so you might just buy in a small quantity of their stock just to sample in the shop, see what your customers think of it. But then outside of that, in terms of like picking breweries, like we just try to pick fun styles we know people are into or they're in trend, and just keep it like really well varied. You know, IPAs are definitely like our best sellers. Lagers seem like a huge resurgence recently. People are really into craft lager. Sour beers are awesome. People are like really kind of craving those. So just try to like look at our split at the end of the week in terms of what was our best sellers and make sure that we kind of match those in terms of what the stock levels look like within the fridges, you know?
All right, cool. And you going to do anything for the Super Bowl, or are you just going to kind of...
Yeah, we're just going to have a couple friends around. Nothing too crazy. I'm starting to get old, and staying up till like 3 o'clock in the morning is a little bit of a challenge for me, but we'll have some friends around. We're going to get some American foods on, definitely have some wings. I've got like a really nice, like, I'm really showing my age now, air fryer wing recipe. It still makes them like really nice and crispy as if you deep fried them, but yeah, a little bit more healthy, right?
Yeah. I hope it's with blue cheese and not ranch.
Oh, you a blue cheese kind of guy?
I love blue cheese, man.
It is good.
Yeah.
I've got a story about blue cheese
Go
though.
for it.
So I thought I liked blue cheese,
Right.
but it turns out I don't. I think I only like bog standard, like grocery shop, supermarket cheese. Remember I went to a cheese shop during lockdown, and like I was like going in there all macho. I'm like, yeah, I like blue cheese, or like, you like it stinky? I'm like, I like it really stinky, right? And they gave me this cheese, and I swear to God, I took it home and I took a bite, and it actually came back up through my nose, almost like horseradish. You know when you have horseradish and it comes back? It was like gasoline. I could have put it in my car and it would have ran for weeks, right? No need for a Tesla, just whack blue cheese in there. I couldn't finish it. Like there was nothing wrong with the cheese, and it was everything wrong with like my baby palate when it came to blue cheese.
Right.
So it definitely needs to be significantly more mild for me.
Just put you off blue cheese for a while.
And it has actually. It really, really has. And I used to love blue cheese dressing as well, but yeah, a little bit of blue cheese, celery sticks, dip it in there, go for it. Sure, plenty in Philadelphia when you visit your family, right?
Oh, it's great, man. Honestly, it's awesome. And I think it's like, that's what I love about like when the times that we've been to Philly, you know, it's like that getting good like kind of blue cheese sauce is it's really, I'll do it. You know, because like it's because like my dad like and his brothers, they grew up in Brooklyn, and then that's how we've still got family out there. It's like my uncle, when they moved back to Scotland, my uncle was like, you know, what is this place? And he joined the American Army and like kind of settled back out there. So
the sauces. It's I don't know why we don't have good accessibility to like blue cheese and ranch. I know you said you're more of a blue cheese guy, but I think ranch is far more accessible for everything. You can put ranch on anything you want. Your pizza, your wings, your salad, whatever you want. But yeah, it's good. It's good.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for coming on. I always like to give guys at kind of time, just like if you want to kind of like promote the business and tell people where they can find you, like if you've got Instagrams and things like that as well.
Yeah, if anybody's looking to get some nice craft beer, you can find us at 51 Old Barn Road, just in the West End. Also, come to try our cocktails. The staff that we have in place have been putting out some amazing quality stuff and always working on it. So Lunar, just in the south side on 72 Nistdale Road, Strathbungo. So,
grand. No, thanks very much, mate.
Thanks, you. Appreciate it.
Cheers.